Welcome back.
I think we're in episode number 8 here. So, not a lot of happy feelings after yesterday. It was quite upsetting to see Nebraska lose the way they did again. I was there, and it sucked. One of those things where, in my mind, it's execution more than anything else. It's coaching. Coaching is a big part of it. But execution, I think overall execution is down. Tommy is not a quarterback for the system that we're trying to run, nor is his passing up to par. He's way below 50% of the year hitting his passes, and a lot of times when he hits his passes, our guys don't catch it.
Yeah, we had a lot of drops.
Carter, Westerkamp, Drake Allen had some drops. Clear missed opportunities. We don't have a running back that can run through people other than Janovich. And when he runs the ball, we don't open holes for him. So
Tommy is probably the best runner that we have, and we don't use him enough in that. I mean, we did an option yesterday. That was kind of cool, but I mean, we need to do some more stuff like that. Tommy threw the ball 48 times or something.
way too many times.
15 times in the first quarter. He was on pace to throw us the ball 60 times.
Yeah.
Do you think that, and how the games have gone in the last few games, I mean, he can't, we're not going to win a game if you throw the ball that many times.
No.
And I know Northwestern's rush defense was decent. We couldn't run the ball very much, but I mean, first and second down, I think still a lot more runs need to go.
But not only that, when you get a 3rd and 3, run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Stop throwing the ball on 3rd and short.
This isn't the NFL.
Yeah, but that's what Mike
Langsdorff came from the NFL.
And that's what they're trying to do is instead. And you don't see it in college football anymore. You don't see option offenses. You don't see a lot of rush offense, rush first offenses. You see a lot of good quarterbacks. And I was talking to somebody today, and they made a really good point. Give us a quarterback like Connor Cook, or Stanford's quarterback.
Yeah.
Give us a quarterback like that, and instead of Terrell Newby, give us a Booker out of Utah, something like that. That changes the dynamics of our offense big time. That changes what we can do with our offense big time. But we don't have that. We don't have that type of system quarterback who can do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
The execution is just not there. The coaching is not great. Langsdorff, we did something completely different than we did against Minnesota.
Well, and somebody else said something last night that I didn't even think about. Azigbo, he didn't even did he play?
No.
Did he have a snap?
No.
Is he hurt?
I don't know.
I mean,
Wilbon hasn't played since game 1.
yeah.
So
we have these guys that like tear it up, and then the next game they don't even see the field. They don't.
Stevenson hasn't been given a shot at running back.
Yeah, they should. Why not at least give him a touch?
Pierre Chanel hasn't been included in the offense this week like it was last week.
Yeah.
We did a completely different game this week against a worse team, if you ask me, than Minnesota. But they have 5 wins.
We had the ball.
They're better than us.
At one point in time, we had the ball for like 40 minutes, and they had the ball for like 13.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We outweighed.
And they had more yards than we did. And we had thrown the ball like 27 times more than them.
Yep.
No.
So
I'm kind of.
there's a lot. This season's bad for Husker fans. I think we're lucky if we get 2 wins, Purdue and Rutgers. I think that'd be lucky if we get those 2.
Yeah, I mean.
So we got a long ways to go.
Yeah, I kind of hope that for the Michigan State game and Iowa game, since they're going to be at home and both those teams are, well, Michigan State will be undefeated because I think they have a bye this week. I think they have a bye this week. Either way, I hope that the place is pumped up and trying to knock off some undefeated teams or something, you know?
We'll see.
That's about all I got.
Taking a lot of wind out of Nebraska this year, Nebraska fans. So, all right, let's go over our games last week that we picked. So we had number 20 Cal going to UCLA Thursday night game. I stayed up for this one even though I was really tired, and I picked UCLA. You picked Cal,
I did pick
and
Cal.
UCLA won 40-24 pretty decisively, even though 24 points is, they still won by 16. They looked good doing it. So they hopped back into the top 25 after that win.
That Pac-12, man, they just beat each other up. They're going to beat each other right out of the playoff spot.
Yeah. Florida State, number 9, at Georgia Tech. I said it. Last 2 years, they've had trouble beating Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech came into their house last year and should have won the game, but they blew it in the last 4th quarter for sure. But so Georgia Tech wins this game on a fluke of a blocked field goal. It's a 56-yard field goal. You're tied 16-16 in the fourth quarter. You're gonna. Why do you kick a field goal for 56 yards when you can just take it to overtime and probably have the upper hand in overtime?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Personally, I think Florida State's the better team.
Yeah, and
A blocked field goal, and they blocked it about 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage too. So that was a low kick. I don't think it had a chance of going in.
my thing is, I thought that, I mean, if you got a shot to win the game, you're going to take it. Just like Alabama and Auburn a couple years ago, and they lined them up. I mean...
But then again, nothing made me happier than seeing Jimbo Fisher's face.
Oh, it was fantastic. I loved it. I watched the replay like 100 times because it was awesome.
He was stunned. He didn't look pissed. He looked stunned. And he just slowly headset off, unhooks it from his belt, hands it over, and he's there's no way you lose a game that way 99%.
The one thing is, I don't know that much about Florida State's kicker. Maybe he's, like us as Nebraska fans, we knew who Alex Henry was, and he could kick bombs.
Like he did against Colorado.
And he did.
We were there.
We were there. And so I don't know. Maybe their kicker is somebody like that.
Yeah.
Maybe
Sucks.
Just had a bad kick. Sucks for them, but
great for us.
It was awesome because it was just kind of like Michigan State last week. And they said there was going to be some upsets this week. We talked about it. And I know there weren't a lot. There was, two big ones, but two top 10 teams.
Yeah.
But that was, especially that was Florida State. They had a 28-game ACC regular season record.
Is it Joey Galloway? He's on Fox Sports maybe. But he was talking, he's like, when you have weeks like this where everyone's like, there's not really very many big games, he's like, you can never say that in college football, which we did, foolish, but there were many games to talk about. But that was one of many that ended up in a surprise, and that was exciting. Good job, Georgia Tech. There we go.
That was awesome. Loved it.
James Madison hosted game day. James Madison with Richmond coming in, the Spiders coming to play the Dukes. We threw that in there just because it was college game day.
And it wasn't all
Jimmy picked Richmond Spiders because he liked I
like their logo.
liked the logo, which was just a spider.
No,
I
picked them because they were the underdog in that.
Yeah, and James Madison was undefeated. Richmond, they go into James Madison, they win 59-49. It was a shootout. They ended up winning by 10. So congratulations, Richmond, taking out James Madison in the AAC.
Okay, FCS, you guys had your fun with your one game game days.
But a couple other games. Alabama. Alabama scored away with
Tennessee.
a win. Tennessee is struggling.
Probably a game that we should have thrown in there because that's a rivalry game.
I thought about it. That was probably one of the best games on the
Tennessee had lost a couple games in a row. It was kind of hard to throw them in the mix.
So Tennessee's winning the game, and Alabama comes down and wins. They end up winning 19-14.
It was 14-13,
Yep.
and they scored a touchdown.
Went for two
and didn't get it. I think Tennessee had a shot.
I think, Tennessee, they still had an opportunity, and they got sacked a couple times. And the second sack, the quarterback kind of ball in the air, and the Alabama guy caught it. They kneeled at a 3-yard line and ended up winning the game. So,
damn.
Alabama still jumped. They jumped up a spot to number 7 from 8. Which we'll talk about the top 10 here in a second. Yeah. But I don't think that's deemed necessary. But that's just me. So,
there were a couple teams in the top 10 that lost.
So Ole Miss beat Texas A&M.
Okay.
Alabama lost to Ole Miss.
Okay.
Alabama beat Texas A&M. A lot of things going on in the SEC there. LSU is going to beat Alabama.
I think so.
Which will knock them out. But we'll talk about top 10 and
we still need to look and see where that game's being played between Alabama and LSU. That is something that I need to do.
Because I think that's in a couple weeks, so one of the last games that they have.
I think it might be not next week.
2 or 3 weeks.
I think the next, or 2 weeks from now, I think is a good week. Yeah. I don't know if they play that week, but I think there's a lot of good matchups, more than there are these past couple weeks.
So not a ton of big stories this weekend, but the UCLA over Cal was a big one. UCLA needed that win. Their quarterback looked good the entire game. Rosenberger. He looked pretty good the entire game, so that was good for them. So.
The other game that was, I don't know if you had written down there, but USC.
Yeah, USC takes out Utah. So USC interim coach, Sarkisian's in rehab. Manziel might be joining him. They might be roomies.
Manziel played today though. Their quarterback got hurt,
How is he not in jail?
and he played.
How's he not in jail?
I don't know.
What the hell? Anyways, so Sarkisian out, done. USC interim coach, and they come out and knock off the number 3 team in the country.
I was pretty surprised. We didn't
I was
pick
shocked.
it. We didn't pick in our thing because I didn't think
Who would have thought
USC
Utah? Yeah.
and Utah had been rolling. And I watched beginning of the game. It was kind of going back and forth. USC was looking pretty good.
Yeah.
There's a couple guys on Utah that are pretty shifty and quick and good.
Well, the
But,
thing with USC is they're not a bad team. Kessler's not a bad quarterback, but he has not had a good year. He has not played like he can. He hasn't.
And like we talked about,
they have wide receivers. They have a running
yeah,
back.
they have a bunch of talented athletes. So I mean,
like they always do.
yeah, they always will. So
USC comes in, or Utah lost at USC, which I think you said they've had how many consecutive losses?
I don't know how many consecutive, but they hadn't won there since for 99 years. Was the last time they won there.
So forever ago. So congratulations, USC.
Down goes one of those undefeated teams.
Yep. So Utah hops out of the top 10. They drop 10 spots. So.
Like I said, those Pac-12 teams are going to beat each other out of a playoff spot.
Yep.
Because we still have a lot of good matchups for the next couple weeks. So
Yeah, it should be fun. So let's take a look. Undefeated, we have the top 6 teams in the country, which is Ohio State, Baylor, Clemson jumps up. Clemson knocked the crap out of
Miami.
58-0
We
Miami.
didn't even talk about that.
Holy cow!
Worst loss in history at Miami, 58-0.
But Miami, they still have a young quarterback. He's a sophomore. He's got a long ways to go.
I don't know if he got hurt or if they just pulled him, but he was out of the game in the second half.
58-0. That was an ass kicking.
And Golden, I thought Golden might get fired today.
I'd be surprised if he sticks around much longer.
Yeah. I don't know who all that.
I don't think he's a good coach. That's the problem. I don't think he's a good person in general.
Well,
let alone a coach.
They still probably have. They play Florida State. I think they played Florida State already.
I can't remember.
But they still have to play Florida probably.
They just. I'll go. I don't think he's a good person. I don't think he's a good coach. From what I see. So we got our top 6 teams with Clemson being number 3. They moved up a couple spots. Clemson well deserving with that win, and they've been pretty decisive the entire season. They took out Notre Dame when they were ranked 6th, and they were 12. Notre Dame was 6th, and they jumped up. So Clemson's number 3. They might be playing for a playoff spot here, depending on how the rest of the
they played
ACC
Florida
does.
State in 2 weeks.
Yep.
And I know Florida State lost yesterday, but I
think they got Florida State. I don't think.
I think Clemson will win the ACC.
Yep.
And if they do, they'll be in the playoff.
LSU number 4, TCU number 5. So TCU dropped.
TCU dropped, LSU moved up.
But still, you got those 5 teams up there, and Michigan State number 6, rolling out last undefeated in the top 6.
And they struggled a little bit with Indiana yesterday. Ended up getting a couple touchdowns
ended up doubling the score, 52.
So they're going to be
26.
undefeated when they roll into Lincoln.
Yep. That's going to be fun. Alabama moves up to number 7, which I think is a joke. And it's funny, I was watching this game, and I think it's a joke because towards the end of the game, when they scored the last touchdown and they won the game, the announcers just cracked me up. They're like, first thing that, what's his bucket douchebag coach?
Saban?
Yeah, what Saban's going to say, when he gets off the field, they're going to talk to him. He's going to say, this was a tough game. Tennessee played really well. I'm glad we came out on top. We need a break. We got next week off, whatever. Our guys are going to need it. We're tired. But Tennessee, give them all the credit. I'm thinking, bullshit. Saban never gives anybody else credit. It's always, our team played terrible. So guess what the first thing he said was,
we played terrible.
hey, what do you think of the game? We didn't play our best game. No, you didn't play your best game, but Tennessee played one of their best against you. Not because Tennessee's a bad team, but give some credit to the other team for crying out loud, Saban.
Well,
your team is not the best thing to watch on this earth.
They don't have a fantastic, outstanding quarterback.
Mm-mm.
So
Henry's good. The running back's good.
He's great. I
had
don't
a
like
14
Alabama
yard TD.
at all, but he's good.
Yeah.
And I don't know, with a loss, and they still have a couple of tough games. I don't see them making the playoff. They get a first place vote though.
Well, but the problem is you have Ohio State, Baylor, Clemson, LSU, TCU, and Michigan State all ahead of them.
Yeah.
There's zero reason why they should jump just because they're an SEC team. LSU's going to beat them, I think. But even if they beat LSU, I don't see them hopping up into a playoff spot with TCU, because Clemson and TCU have to play, or Baylor and TCU have to play each other. One of those two teams, if they stay undefeated, they should stay ahead of Bama. If you ask me, I think Stanford deserves it better than Alabama.
I think
Stanford's
so too.
been playing. Stanford looked rock solid against Washington last night. Washington's a young team; they got a lot of young talent, but Stanford, McCaffrey, you can't stop him.
Yeah,
We'll talk about
and
him
he's
in a
young
minute,
too.
but I just Stanford, Notre Dame, and Iowa wrap up the top 10.
Iowa cracks the top 10.
Iowa's 7-0.
They should. They should be there.
I think they should be ahead.
Them and Notre Dame this week. They lucked out that they didn't play.
Yeah.
And there was 2 top 10 teams that lost.
But
so they moved up 2 spots.
I think Stanford, Notre Dame, and Iowa should all be ahead of Alabama. That's just my personal thought. But I have opinions, and they're not the same as everyone else in the country.
We're just here to give our opinions.
Yeah.
No, but interesting note before we move on there. Baylor, number 2. Quarterback.
Out. Russell's done for probably done for the season, I'm guessing.
He's getting some deal.
Fracture in his neck or something?
Yeah, I don't know. He didn't play great. They got up 35-0 right off the bat, like they always do.
Yeah, as a team like Baylor, go up 35-0. Sometimes they seem to let up off the
Their
gas.
running back's really good, but that was the first game that they'd scored under 56 points this year.
I still think they're going to.
I still think that they're talented, but they have a freshman quarterback now, so it's all another.
It's true. It depends on what happens with Russell.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Baylor in the coming weeks with Russell out. We'll see. So that's top 10. Let's go talk about. So we have 7 undefeated teams in the top 10, including our number 10 Iowa. We have 5 teams outside of the top 10: Temple, Houston, Memphis, Toledo, and Oklahoma State, who all won this week.
Tragic accident at Oklahoma State yesterday.
Unbelievable. And they
We won't
came
even
out.
go into that, but
props to them for still coming out, and they won pretty decisively.
Yeah, they did.
too.
And
They won pretty.
they haven't-
beat what? Kansas.
They beat
right?
Kansas, who hasn't won.
Kansas has like 30 plus. It's so many. I don't remember how many. It's some unthinkable amount of teams or games that they've lost on the road. Like 30 plus
In a
road
row?
games in a row.
Well,
And they're
just
0-7.
happy they're just happy they have their basketball team, I guess.
They have a football team for a reason. It's because they have to.
Yeah.
They're in the Big 12. But they suck.
Oklahoma
But
State.
still.
Out of those 5 teams that you said are outside of the top 10, Oklahoma State's the only Power 5 school,
Yeah.
and that's the reason that they're not in the top 10 is because they haven't won, big games.
Yeah.
Or won by a lot. It'll be
what-
fun when
Memphis
they
is
play.
15 now. Memphis jumped up to 15, and they beat Ole Miss, and they won this. They won on Friday or Thursday. One of the 2 nights they played.
Mhm.
Temple and Toledo. One of them played. Those 3 teams
Toledo
all
beat
played.
Arkansas during the season. Arkansas is not great or by any means.
They should have been.
But I don't know. Oklahoma State being undefeated right now and ranked as high as they are is going to help the Big 12, I think.
Yeah.
With them having to play TCU and Baylor, it'll put a little bit better
Put some
resume
pressure,
on,
yeah.
put some pressure on them. Or if they do beat them, they'll have a win over a
It'll
higher
help
ranked
Baylor and TCU too.
Yeah, teams, because as we know, the Big 12 missed out on the playoff last year, and they're hoping to get in this year. So.
Yeah, open not get screwed. So we'll see how that
A lot of 12 undefeated teams. That's not gonna be able to last, obviously. But.
Anything can happen.
Yep.
So then we have, let's talk about Heisman. So we got Fournette, still,
Obviously.
to me, top runner for the Heisman. Fournette's still up there. He had 150 plus yards again. Played well. LSU didn't really destroy in their game, but they won.
And I think it was a non-conference game. You kind of take those lightly. The SEC does those. They play a conference game early in the year, and they play a non-conference game later. I don't like it, but I get it. Give your guys a little bit of a break. Part with a big win, point-wise. But Western Kentucky, I think, is having a pretty good year in the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
So
Fournette's still your top runner. You got to put Boykin in there still for TCU. Like we talked about last week, Russell I thought Russell would be in the talk, but now with him getting hurt.
He was leading the nation in touchdown passes, but
We also talked about Booker for Utah with that loss. Booker didn't have a good game. I don't
with
see
Utah dropping 10 spots.
I don't see him being a possibility for the Heisman anymore. Not to say he's not one of the best players in the country. But
Yeah, taking nothing away from him.
You know how the Heisman votes go.
Aside-
It's not the best player. It's usually the best player on the best team. It's not the best player in the country. We saw that with Sue. We saw it with what's his name from Stanford that one year.
Yeah.
Who didn't win it?
Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck. I mean, well, who was the running back?
Andrew Luck. I take that back because Robert Griffin won the Heisman, and he was not on the best team.
But, yeah.
He was the best player in the country. They got it right that year. I don't know. I don't really know Clemson's quarterback. Maybe if they're up there.
Clemson might have somebody up there. I don't pay attention to Clemson that often. I just know they're doing well, and I've watched them play a couple times. But I think you got to throw McCaffrey in there from Stanford.
Yeah.
McCaffrey, I think he has the most all-purpose yards of anybody in the country, and he is a stud. I mean, if you watch Stanford play, you watch him return. He returns kicks. He catches passes. He runs the ball. Not only does he run the ball, he is a patient runner. He lets his linemen get out in front of him when they do misdirection. He lets them get out in front, hand on the back. He waits for his blocks, and he makes those runs happen. But you get him out in the open field, he's unstoppable. He caught a pass on a wheel route last night. As soon as he caught it, he was gone. There's no question. He has open field speed, and he can juke people. He can run through guys. The guy is 5'9", 195 pounds. You would guess he was 230 pounds and 6'2".
Yeah.
But he runs that way, and he runs through people. He's just not the biggest guy. But he's got to be in the mix. No matter how Stanford ends up, he's got to be at that Heisman.
You know, what I was going to say was I don't think there's going to be a lot of guys that go to the Heisman ceremony this year.
4 maybe.
And I think 3 or 4. I mean, which is usually pretty standard, but I mean, Ohio State is the #1 team in the country. Are you going to send somebody? They've played. Maybe you send Braxton Miller because I know he's had a bunch of touchdowns and catches and yards, but
Ohio State hasn't been a standout team.
They really haven't. So I don't know. Maybe with how some of these later games in the season go, some guys will step up and it'll.
And look what happened with Ohio State. Cordell Jones out. First game he doesn't start.
Yeah, JT Barrett had a huge game.
JT Barrett.
This
is the first game where Ohio State has been extremely decisive, where there was no shot in them losing. And they played Rutgers, right?
Yeah, they played Rutgers.
But still, they've struggled with teams that are just as bad, if not worse, than Rutgers. And JT Barrett came in there and had a hell of a game. I hate Ohio State, but damn,
he threw for a couple hundred yards. He rushed for 100 yards, threw for touchdowns, ran for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was what they've been waiting for. Unfortunately, I don't like Ohio State, but I do want a team from the Big Ten to be in.
I think it took Ohio State too long to put Barrett in to start. Personally, Cordell Jones, not bad quarterback. He came in as a backup last year. And honestly, I think it was one of those years where it was, holy crap, this guy is good. He's that good all the time. He didn't show it this year.
He's kind of a pro. He's kind of a pro style quarterback. I think he could be good in the pros. He's a big guy and he can throw it a mile. But
he can run a little bit if he needs to.
Yeah, but JT Barrett is more of like a dual threat. You know, can run.
And I think JT Barrett's. I think he's better with his accuracy. I mean, Cordell Jones has thrown a lot of interceptions this year, so JT Barrett, I think he's going to be the starter for the rest of the year.
Well, I think so too because he got a chance. You know, and they've tried him in a couple different games, but he didn't start. He came in off the bench or whatever, and
he got a chance to start.
I think he got a start. I think he got one other start, and
maybe
he threw an interception or something early, and then they switched him out or whatever it was. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a good move on Ohio State's part. As much as I dislike him, I think that's what's going to make him #1 the rest of the season. I think it's going to be JT Barrett. Kind of what happened last year. Cordell Jones came in, he ran the table and looked good doing it. JT Barrett is not coming in due to injury, but he's coming in because he's a better quarterback. In my mind, he's the older quarterback. He's better. So I think Ohio State will continue to be successful with him. As much as I hate to say it, so
I don't know.
Next week's games. So that's all we really have for you today. So we'll talk about the next week's games. Not a lot on the table again, but we're gonna throw in a couple games that who knows. So first one, let's talk about Florida. Number 11, Florida, going to Georgia. So Georgia's 5-2, Florida's 6-1.
Georgia lost Chubb.
They're without him. They still have a good quarterback. Florida is, in my mind, a little overrated. They're not a bad team, but I think they're a little overrated. They're not in the best conference.
They play well.
They're not in the best conference. That's a lie. They're in one of the best conferences. But
you can take that how you want.
You look at the rest of the SEC this year. It's Bama. Bama's the only team in the top 10.
Well, LSU.
And LSU. But
Florida plays really well at home.
Florida lost to LSU, right?
They did. It was close though. And it was at Florida. Florida plays really well at home in the Swamp.
I think Georgia would be in the top 10 if they didn't lose Chubb.
Yeah, and so I think it'll be. I still think that'll be a good game. I mean,
who do you want to take? It's Georgia.
I'll go Georgia because I don't like Florida.
Coming to the Bulldog Terry, I'm taking Georgia too. Because I think Georgia, they need a decisive win this season. They want to get into a bowl game. They're 5-2. Florida's already in a bowl game. I'm taking Georgia as well. Go Bulldogs.
Yeah.
All right. This one, you might not think this one, but Notre Dame going to undefeated Temple.
So it's the only top 25 matchup. It's at Temple.
You got number 9 and number 21.
Yeah, it's a Saturday night, 7 o'clock ABC game.
What happened to Ole Miss in Memphis?
Yeah, I get your point. I get your point.
This is a big game.
I know you Notre Dame fans out there. You're always like, "Oh, you guys hate on us. You guys always hate on us," and we do.
Well, and what? Okay, so Notre Dame's ranked number 9 right now. Georgia Tech won, beat Florida State.
Okay.
That's big. Some can consider that big for them.
Oh yeah. I got.
They still have USC coming up.
Notre Dame still plays Stanford. They play Pittsburgh next week, and Pittsburgh's in the top 25. I mean, honestly, right now I would say that Notre Dame has a legit shot to make it to the playoffs.
They got some game, and
I mean they have the games that'll make them, depending on how strongly the committee takes conference championships.
And Georgia Tech beat USC, which was. Georgia Tech beat Florida State, which was big for them.
Yeah.
So they have a shot, but they need a lot ahead of them to fail.
I agree.
Stanford, they need to beat Stanford.
That's the biggest game, and that's the last game of the year. So if both of them are going to that game with one loss.
And they still have USC, right? They haven't played them yet?
They beat USC last week.
That's right, because I picked Notre Dame in that game.
Yeah.
And you didn't. But they need a lot. They need Michigan State. They got so many teams ahead of them that are so good that they need a lot to happen.
Luckily for them, just kind of looking at LSU and Alabama, they have to play each other. Michigan State and Ohio State, they have to play each other. TCU and Baylor have to play each other.
So there's a lot that can happen.
But at the same time, with those teams losing, let's say Baylor and TCU played, and Baylor's 2 and TCU's 5. TCU wins. How far does Baylor drop? Yeah, if Baylor wins, how far does TCU drop?
And even Michigan State playing number 1 Ohio State, if they lose, how far do they drop?
As you could see how they go. Teams win and they jump 15 spots. Teams lose and they drop 10, 12 spots. But then. Also, Ole Miss is staying up there even with 2 bad losses because they beat Alabama. So I don't know.
And playoff committee, they start putting the votes in next week, right? It's after next week.
Yep.
After week 8.
I thought it was maybe this week.
So next Monday they start putting the votes.
I think they do Tuesday. I think it's November 3rd.
Holy crap! It's almost November.
Yeah.
So we start hearing the votes from the committee, and that'll be interesting. That's gonna make us think a little bit more about what we think about the committee for one, but it might sway some of our opinions a little bit too.
It could. Let's pick the game. Who are you taking, Notre Dame or Temple?
I'm gonna pick a huge upset in Temple just because anything can happen. Temple's coming in undefeated, and Notre Dame's good. Don't get me. Notre Dame is damn good. I'm picking Temple because I think it'd be not only hilarious, but I think it'd be fun to see a team like Temple come out and beat a top program like Notre Dame.
I think that it's a night game
Shock
and they're
the world.
undefeated. That place will probably be rocking up
at
in
Temple.
Philly. I think it's in Philly. I think on paper everything is kind of in Temple's favor, but I've got to go against you on one, so I'll take Notre Dame.
Jimmy rarely takes Notre Dame, so Tim, be happy. Pooty,
Can't be mad this
Pooty,
week.
you can be mad at me. And it's funny because I posted something last night about, some people think that the Georgia Tech win was huge, and what was the other one? The USC beating Utah was huge for Notre Dame, and I said I disagree a little bit, but I'm not really that convinced.
No.
But at the same time, it is. I was just messing, and Pooty
Yeah.
took it well. But so I got Temple, you got Notre
And
Dame.
one thing I do want to bring up is these AP rankings right here don't really mean
No.
anything, because I mean Ohio State's been number one all season. They come out with those first playoff rankings, depending on how Ohio State looks. I don't know that they're going to be at number one.
They might not be.
They might have Clemson at number one. They might have Baylor at number one.
The 2, 3, and 4, Baylor, Clemson, LSU. I think one of those teams.
Depending on
be ahead.
how this next week goes.
But they take the entire season. Those first 8 weeks, they put them all together, and that's how they come up with their first rankings. And I don't think Ohio State is number one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Personally, but that takes into preseason rankings, what they do last year. But that's not what the committee's going to look at. They're going to look at the first 8 weeks.
Yeah, that's what
You look at the
drives
first
me
8
nuts about
weeks,
these rankings.
Ohio State is not number one. Just saying.
Yeah.
I'm going to call it now. Those first rankings come out. We might have to do a little show on the side after the first rankings on
Just a
Wednesday.
quick, yeah, we might do a quick little
rundown. I think Ohio State's going to be number 3 or 4. Saying
It's
that.
like Florida State was undefeated last year and they weren't the number
Yep.
one seed
So,
because they weren't the best team.
they weren't the best team.
Just because you're undefeated doesn't mean you're the best team.
Touche.
Well, Nebraska plays Purdue.
Nebraska at Purdue. Nebraska's friggin' struggling. We went to Minnesota and we won, which is huge. I don't think we're gonna lose to Purdue. I mean, I wouldn't pick against them either
I would
way.
certainly hope that we don't lose. If we lose this weekend to Purdue, people are gonna go out of their minds.
Some people might die. I mean, people might.
People are already going out of their minds. People are gonna be. I don't even know what it would be like.
It's
but
crazy. Go Nebraska.
we always love.
Die hard.
We still love the Huskers. I still cheer.
There's still a lot of positive things going on this year. Just
And
not
we
enough.
have like the number 7 quarterback in the country committed to Nebraska.
Yeah, just not enough going on for Nebraska
So-
this year. So go Big Red, go Huskers. At Purdue, I think we win. We went to Minnesota, we won. By the way, I got to see the chair, the broken chair trophy.
Yes.
I'll post a picture for everybody. Just it was kind of funny. I was walking next to the guy.
I like that.
Like, is
trophy.
that the trophy?
That's like the best trophy.
And he's like, yeah. I'm like, can I get a picture with you? He goes, I got to keep walking. I'm like, I'm walking with you. I'm gonna take a picture because I was at the Husker game. So, anyways,
funny.
that was pretty funny. So I'll post a picture of that. That's all I got. You got anything?
Go Mavs. Mavs hockey.
You know hockey.
That's
Pretty exciting. We're hockey fans
Yeah.
too. And go Royals.
I will say go Royals.
Beat the shit out of the Mets, please. Shut down Daniel Murphy. Shut down.
Don't let that guy hit another home run.
Don't let him hit a home runs, and don't let Lucas Duda hit a home run. Holy shit. The guy's got
Man.
13, 14 strikeouts out of 20 at bats. Don't let him do that. All right. Got anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right. Once again, we are two average guys. We got opinions. If you don't like them, you don't give a shit.
See you next week.
See you next week.